Hey guys, Tanis here. With the Elden Ring Nightraigne beta test officially over, I gotta wait 3 months until I can get my roguelike fits again. But in the meantime, I can look back on the playtest with fond memories, like how my random teammates played that they've never picked up a controller before, or that on the afternoon before the last play session, I woke up with a cold sweat with an idea. A very dumb idea. See, in From Software games, there's always a need to make games more difficult for some reason. Whether it's because you find the games too easy, you want to try a different playstyle, or you just want to make an awesome video on it for those sweet YouTube views. There's always somebody pushing the game to its limits, and that's where my brain went into overdrive. With Nightraigne having a beta, most people are just going to be focused on enjoying what FromSoft served up for them, me included for the first play sessions. But now, I have a goal in mind, and that brings me to my question. Can you beat the Elden Ring Nightraigne beta test using only bows? I got this idea when I was going to sleep after playing the second to last play session and was scrolling YouTube for a video to listen to in the background. And that's when I got recommended JK Leeds' video on beating Dark Souls 3 using every archery challenge on one character, and thought to myself, what if I did that in the beta test? So I told the other main members of the channel, Oni and Plank, about the idea and asked if they were down for it, and to my surprise, they were. So enough beating around the bush, let's get into the rules. For this challenge, we only have 2 rules. No dealing damage unless it's with a bow or bow equivalent, with the exception of character abilities and passives that deal damage, and you can have non-bow items in your inventory as long as you don't use it for damage. The first rule makes sense, with having to clarify bow equivalent just in case I find a staff with Loretta's mastery on it or one of us picks up a crossbow. And we're allowing character abilities because 1, it's cool, and 2, a core feature of Nightraigne is the characters have their own abilities they can tap into, and restricting that just makes the game less fun. And the passive exception was made during the first attempt because I may or may not have selected a passive that spawns in Glint Blade and attacks enemies, so that's on me. And the second rule is in place because technically having other weapons in your inventory would make it so it's not really bows only, but that's like getting mad at any Souls challenge runner for putting rings on to boost their damage. We're only equipping them for the passive effects they give off. Oh yeah, I guess that's something new Nightraigne added. So when you pick up a weapon, you will see that underneath what damage type and what stasis ailment it procs, there's a little description of what the weapon will do for you when it's in your inventory. So see this warped axe? If I have it in my inventory, I get 15% improved lightning damage negation, regardless of if I have it in my main hand or not. So the only reason we'd pick up weapons other than bows is for that reason. Think of it like the Grass Crest Shield from Dark Souls, only there to give a little boost for when we need it. And now that that's all cleared up, it's finally time to get this run started. For this run, I went the Recluse, your typical mage class, who has the special ability Magic Cocktail, which, to simplify as much as possible, is basically I can stack up to 3 charges of whatever elemental damage is dealt to allies or enemies and throw it back at my enemies with different combinations for massive damage. It also restores my FP when I use it. Her ultimate skills allow her to mark enemies with HP and FP drain when you hit them to help the team out of a pinch if you plan it right. And also, Anyways, Oni went the Wilder class, who's the poster boy for the game. He mainly specializes in high-speed movement, utilizing his grappling hook to close the distance on his enemies, and making use of his arm cannon to deal big damage to whatever's in front of him. And Clank went the Guardian class, or how I like to refer to him,
the evil and intimidating bird.
His main shtick is being the beefy boy of the group, with the highest health and most defense out of the 4 characters you can select for the beta. He can whip up a whirlwind to throw enemies in the air to make them vulnerable to an attack by a teammate. His ultimate has him spread his wings and take to the sky before crashing into the ground to make a massive shockwave. We spawned in on the top left of the map, which for our run is really good, because there's a camp that has 6 chests that all have a chance to have bows in them. Unfortunately for us, this starter camp had no bows, so we quickly made our way to an enemy camp north of spawn that has flame chariots patrolling the area. Me and Oni both found 2 bows, with Oni finding long bows and me finding great bows. I saw that Clank was nearby me and gave him one of the great bows, but got knocked before I could get to a vantage point. Clank tried to revive me, but he wasn't used to the slow firing rate of the great bow and I died. Good thing that's something you can do in Nightraigne. After respawning, I quickly made my way back to the camp and got my dropped runes back. Oni also gave me one of the longbows he picked up, and I finally had some decent damage. After getting our weapons, we went back to where we spawned and decided to go to the magic castle a little south of us. Or that's what I thought. Turns out Oni and Clank wanted smoke with Loretta, so I quickly doubled back to help with the fight. It mainly consisted of Oni running around and dealing fast bursts of damage with his skills and longbow, while me and Clank stayed back to deal big hits to Loretta with our great bows. After a definitely easy fight where Clank definitely did not get knocked at all, we chose one of the 3 rewards for beating the boss. Oni chose to get successive attacks that restore FP, Clank got a serpent bow, I think that's what that is, and I chose to get a passive skill that allows me to spawn glint blade swords that automatically attack foes so I can get stacks of magic damage for my skill. I also got to level 6, so my HP, FP, and stamina have all been increased. Once Loretta was killed, we actually went to the magic castle to see if I could get a staff with Loretta's mastery on it. Unfortunately, we had no such luck with the mini-boss rewards or the actual staffs you can find in the building. I did, however, get a staff that gave me some damage negation when charging things. We then saw that circles started closing in, which meant there was time to lock in and get to the Night 1 boss arena. While running through Storm, I found a sword that had a passive to increase range damage, and then proceeded to die to the Storm. After respawning again, we got to work fighting the Night 1 boss, the Centipede Demon from Dark Souls 1. For this boss fight, our main strategy that we didn't discuss was Clank taking aggro while me and Oni laid into the boss. Oni started spamming Rain of Arrows, which was justified, while I was attempting to get 3 charges of magic damage, and that's where those glint blades from earlier came in. After getting my magic cocktail to full, I got to use a triple magic-based magic cocktail serving, which I like to call
Judgment Day.
I don't know what it's actually called, but
Judgment Day.
sounds cool. And it looks like Virgil's Judgment Cut from Devil May Cry 5. Basically, it does 3 to 5 bursts of magic damage to the enemy I'm locked onto when I cast it. And because it does multiple bursts of magic-based damage, I can use the first half of my magic cocktail skill, which I'm going to call building, to get more magic charges to do another cocktail serve. Does anybody want to count how many times they said magic or cocktail in that last sentence? Sweet lord. Anyways, I started spamming that in conjunction with Oni and Clank using their skills to deal damage, and beat Centipede Demon with minimal difficulty. I got a passive that gives me a burst of Frenzy Flame when I'm walking, and Oni got a passive that increases damage dealt against dragon enemies. Thankfully, there was a dragon right by the boss arena, so we got to fight in that boy. After shoving countless arrows into the dragon, nothing happened, you can't prove anything happened. We killed the dragon, and I got a passive that gave me FP gain on successive attacks. Also, if anybody's wondering why I'm not saying what passives Clank is getting, it's because I couldn't see what was happening on his screen. I can tell what Oni gets because he streamed the attempts we did. After killing the dragon, we went to a mage tower that was north of us, and we looted it for a talisman that gives FP when enemies die, and then went to Blood Ruins in hopes to find a bow that dealt bleed damage. Sadly, we didn't find it, but I did get an ice cleaver that gives me a passive that makes a storm of lightning erupt from me when I walk. We took too long in the Blood Ruins, so we were deep in Storm. When running out of Storm, a bunch of ants spawned on me alone, and I had to deal with them by myself. Thankfully, I had my magic cocktail fully charged, so it wasn't too much of a problem. Also, yes, that was basically just me doing a hollow purple. Why FromSoft decided to allow me to do that, I have no clue, but man am I happy they let me. Once we were out of Storm, we raided a castle, and I upgraded my weapon before attempting to 1v1 a giant, because Oni and Clank were on the opposite side of the castle, which I will admit was my fault. Thankfully, I'm the recluse goat and soloed that boy. My reward was a horn bow, which I immediately equipped it. We ran up to the roof to kill whatever boss was on there, and it was a Godskin Noble. We were fighting him in Storm, and Oni threw himself off the roof, which I found pretty funny, but other than that, it was just a smooth boss's end. But since we took so long in Storm, it was a struggle trying to get back into Circle before the boss of the night. By the time we got into Circle, we were all out of flasks, and Morgott was already spawned in with 2 Omen Twins. I used my ultimate skill to allow the party to get health refills, but Morgott was not happy about that and knocked me out immediately. Oni also died soon after, and it was up to Clank to revive us. He revived Oni first, which was a smart choice, and with their combined firepower, they revived me. But Morgott, forgetting that I was a day 1 blazer, threw his big-ass spear at me, and I got brutalized. Oni went to revive me because aggro's on Clank, but he accidentally walked towards Oni when Morgott was throwing knives, and they both got knocked. It was clear that the run died as soon as I wanted to kill the Godskin Noble. If we didn't stay in Storm for so long, we probably wouldn't have died to Morgott. After all, we didn't even have a chance to level up before the fight. It was a simple mistake, but one that cost us the run. And after that, we were pretty disheartened to retry the challenge. But Mama didn't raise no quitter. We got to the second to last fight. There's no way we're giving up now. This time we spawned on the bottom right of the map and wasted no time looking for chests to find bows. We didn't, however, and had to go to a camp that had an Elder Lion boss and tried to find bows there. Thankfully we did, and I got straight to work trying to take aggro while Oni and Clank could get their bows. This is when I noticed my grave mistake. I accidentally put on an item before the run began that turned my flasks into an AoE party heal that doesn't heal me. So if I'm in Storm, I'm cooked. Clank and Oni both did full die once, but that's alright because it's not like we leveled up any. The fight really began when Oni and Clank also both got bows. But it was weird because the line kept glitching and teleporting back to where it spawned at random, so that made it more difficult to fight. I spammed Mighty Shot and we killed it. After that, we went to the center castle to try and get some more loot, but Oni was not having any of it and ran through the castle. So instead, we went to a Misbegotten camp where I picked up a composite bow and a horn bow, I think that's what it is. Storm was moving in though, so we made our way to circle and realized our opponent was the Demi-Human Queen and Swordmaster. These two were a good balance of speed and power attacks, with the Swordmaster being a pest while the Queen uses Glint Blade sorcery to try and throw you off. Me and Oni decided it was for the best to jump the Swordmaster while Clank takes aggro from the Queen. Clank got knocked because the Demi-Human Queen spawned in more enemies, and I made a mad dash to revive him. After Clank was back up, I started to kill some of the spawned in enemies before returning to the original plan to jump the Swordmaster. Oni got knocked while the Swordmaster was one tap, and I got a sick looking kill on him. Clank went to revive Oni and got knocked, so I focused on reviving Oni before going to rest Clank. When both Oni and Clank were back up, it was a simple task of finishing the Demi-Human Queen off. At the start of day 2, we jumped a Miranda Blossom and got more max HP as a reward. We then set out to go to the Magic Castle and get more stuff. I dropped on top of a Guardian Golem and shot him in the ankles a lot, and also, what was that shot? That is not how bows work! Oni really wanted to aura farm, and by the time he got there, the Golem was dead. Our reward for killing the Golem? Crossbows. For me, at least. Oni and Clank both got hand ballistas. Then Morgott showed up. He instantly killed me, and Clank couldn't revive me under the pressure of Morgott. As for where Oni was, I have no clue. I think he fell off the building and was trying to get back up. Next, we went to the castle in the center of the map and brutalized the giant as a team this time, and I picked up a passive that gave me a higher chance to poise break the enemy. We then went up to the roof, and Loretta was there. Sadly, Storm started moving in, and for some reason we still wanted to smoke with Loretta, as if we didn't learn our lesson last time. We beat her, and I got a passive that would make some enemies die regardless of what health they had left. Although, throughout the entire beta, I have never seen it insta-kill any enemy. We wanted smoke with the Elder Lion that was at the bottom, and murdered it while trying to run out of Storm, and I got more stamina from this encounter. While running into Circle, I saw that the boss we're going to fight is none other than the Draconic Tree Sentinel. This boss in the beta is already tanky as hell, and trying to fight him using bows only is going to be a nightmare. And to add salt to the wound, since we took too long to get in a circle, the boss was already spawned in with the mini enemies still alive, adding more things to deal with. Oni was taking hella aggro from the Draconic Tree Sentinel before he died, and me and Clank revived him. He got insta-knocked again, but I had
Judgment Day
charged up, so I could instantly revive him. This boss was an overall test of our skills and teamwork. I knew that to properly take down the Draconic Tree Sentinel, we needed all hands on deck, so I went to help Clank kill the Royal Cavalrymen who he was fighting. But then, the worst thing that could have happened happened. Oni died again. I tried to warn Clank that the boss was aggro on him, but it fell on deaf ears as he got knocked by the Draconic Tree Sentinel. After quickly reviving him, I was running the ISO with the Royal Cavalrymen when Clank and Oni got knocked again. I went to revive Oni first since he had less gauge to go through, and directly after he got back up, I died. Oni thankfully revived me and I was able to get Clank back up. I saw Oni was getting jumped and got knocked once more, so I tried to get him back, but I realized I made a fatal mistake. I saw the Draconic Tree Sentinel charging up for a big hit and thought I could run away in time. But when I realized it was too late and tried to dodge, I was out of stamina and died. Clank made a valiant effort to revive Oni, but got gunned down by fireballs and we were once again met with the defeat screen. After another L to the second to last boss of the beta, we realized that any hope of trying to succeed at this challenge within the time restraints of the beta would have been fruitless, and we decided to end the attempts there. So it would appear that you cannot, in fact, beat the Elden Ring Nightraigne beta test using only bows. We simply didn't have the time nor luck to properly get a good enough attempt for a successful video. Although, if you guys did like this video and want to see more content like this when Nightraigne comes out, please let me know in the comments below and by liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel out and makes my dopamine receptors go crazy. Also, if you didn't like the video, please dislike the video and comment how it could have been better. This is my first attempt at trying to do a Souls challenge run video, so I'm hoping to improve as much as I can for future iterations in this content style. But please try to keep your comments respectful, because there's a fine line between constructive criticism and this video is bad because Tanis sucks. Anyways, I've yapped for far too long. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and if it's already night, enjoy your sleep. Tanis, signing off.